For more on the Great Wall and the future of China's film industry, I'm joined now by Rebecca Sun. She's live for us in Los Angeles, California, and she's a senior reporter for The Hollywood Reporter. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thanks so much, Jessica.
So, Rebecca, The Hollywood Reporter, of course, does review films. It has reviewed The Great Wall. How did the film do?
It's not great. I think that there were a lot of hopes because this is the most expensive U.S.-China co-production, but critically, it has not been well received by us or by our peer outlets. And so, I don't think this is going to be a rave.
Now, The Great Wall did have a huge budget, $150 million, the most expensive film ever shot in China. The estimated take for the first day, including Thursday night previews, was 24.3 million renminbi. Is that good or bad in terms of China's reception for this film?
It's okay, but it's not great, especially given, the huge budget of the movie, as well as the high hopes with the, really prominent Hollywood participation. It's sort of somewhere in the maybe 100s in terms of ranking best box office openings. I think that Legendary really hoped that it could have done a lot better.
Yeah, so, this, of course, has a lot of cultural implications riding on it. Great Wall is supposed to be an example of what Hollywood and China can do together, a big budget, cross-culture, et cetera. Is it going to be able to accomplish those goals, even if the reception isn't gangbusters out of the gate?
A true co-production between Hollywood and China has been the holy grail for many years, and there were a lot of hopes that The Great Wall would be that first successful movie to play well on both sides of the Pacific. It's not looking like The Great Wall will accomplish those goals. For one thing, it's already not going to be such a smash success in China. It's even less likely to be as successful in the U.S. When it opens next year.
Now, you have been writing, of course, about this issue of whitewashing in Hollywood overall, and I read part of one of your articles that cited this interesting statistic from USC that just 5% of on-screen characters are Asian, and half of the projects reviewed had no Asian characters at all. What do you believe is the key to changing that?
Right. Well, it starts with creating roles that are specifically Asian and that go to Asian actors. Now, Matt Damon is right in the sense that his Great Wall role is not technically whitewashing because that character was always meant to be white. However, it does perpetuate this sort of white savior trope, which means that even when you have a story that is steeped in Asian culture and has a completely Asian environment, is set in an Asian historical, story, you still need a white protagonist. And so what screenwriters and producers and filmmakers basically need to start with is how do you create roles that are specifically for Asians? And that's how you begin to correct that alarming statistic.
And you also talk about how you need to have more behind the camera, not just in front of the camera, that it essentially starts with the directors and the writers.
Oh, absolutely. I think that certainly in Hollywood, there is still very little representation among Asian Americans when it comes to studio executives, directors, screenwriters. And so having the more representation you have behind the camera, that really does create a ripple effect in terms of what you end up seeing on screen.
I want to go back to the bottom line for a moment here, though. You talked earlier about Wanda's participation in producing this film. What does it stand to lose if this isn't as good as expected?
Well, like you said, the budget for this movie is around $100 million US. And so if it doesn't meet those projections, they're looking at, that loss. Now, that said, Wanda is an extremely wealthy company. They've got a lot of different investments. Their AMC theater chain is really profitable. And so they'll be okay, but I think it's also a matter of their pride. This was sort of their big coming out, showing that they can make a movie that Hollywood, that Americans will love. And so, that'll certainly sort of hurt in terms of just the cultural impact of them still not having been able to succeed in that aspect.
Well, we're going to have you back on later in the program to talk about the global film industry. But for now, our thanks to you, Rebecca Sun, there for us in LA. The great